back to the Honored Ones podcast.
And honestly, a pretty special episode because we're finally doing the Bleach episode, an episode that we alluded to for, I think since the beginning, for like 6 weeks at this point. Like, we've been saying we are going to be doing this for a long time, and we're finally ready to do it. So with the Bleach trailer coming out, by the time we're recording this, like a couple of days ago, but by the time you guys see this, like a week ago, I think it was just a very topical thing to do. So, you know.
Yeah, man. And now that we both have our Bleach videos up, I guess there's only one thing we have to talk about, and that's who made the better video. Now, listen, I don't want to vote for myself right off the bat. I know it's the obvious choice. I know that's what all of our listeners think.
Of course.
But I just want to... What was that?
I said, of course.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. I thought something got scrambled there in the mic. Must have been technical difficulties on my end. My bad. So, yeah. I'll tell you what I thought of yours. You tell me what you thought of mine.
Wait, hold on. So you tell me what? Give you my thoughts on your video?
Yeah, and I'll give you my thoughts on your video. Because your video felt like a passive response to mine in more ways than one.
Yeah, I didn't watch your video until after I published mine, but I will say my general thoughts are, it was a well put together video for sure. I think you were relatively concise in what you had to say. I agree on a couple, if not a lot of things you said in terms of like Bleach stuff. Like, let's see. We'll obviously get
way more than expected.
I guess we'll kind of talk about it as it comes up. I definitely agreed with some of the stuff you said, but there are some things I was definitely like, yeah, we're gonna talk about this on the Bleach episode for sure. So there's that. But yeah, it was definitely a good video, whether or not I disagreed with the points.
I mean, I really appreciate that. And the same goes for your video. I had a lot of moments of agreement, and then some stuff that I was like, it made me do a double take, like just to get into the details, right? You said this one thing about Aizen being a Buddhist symbol, and that's like a reason he should be goated in terms of character as like Meruem. I don't want to say Pain because I don't watch Mid, but a different, equally good, well-written character. But no, Togashi is the best manga to ever hold a pen. So comparing him wouldn't be fair. God, Naruto fans must have it so easy.
Pain is so much better than Meruem. It's not even funny, but it's whatever.
All right, we're getting off topic. These different episodes.
That's true.
In and of themselves. So yeah, I want a little bit more, not explanation, but I'm curious what this whole Aizen Buddhist symbol is, because I think you're right. Aizen is an underrated villain. I just don't necessarily agree for the reason you chose. So I just want to tell you what I love and see about Aizen,
sure.
But I just want you to explain the Buddhist thing first. So lay it on me.
Here's the thing. Maybe because a lot of people were harping on that of being Aizen having a lot of symbolisms to Buddhist religion is makes him good. It's not necessarily that I think it makes him good. I'm honestly not even the biggest fan of symbolism relating to quality myself. Honestly, I brought that up as a point to show not a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of Aizen's character on a lot of people's front. So for example, you look at Meruem, you ask any person who's watched or read Hunter x Hunter, they can to some extent tell you why Meruem is good, right? In some sort of detail. His parallel with Gon is super good, his character development is this, that, and the third. And he comes from this monstrous character to this very human feeling, sympathetic character, and his relationship with Komagi is cool, right? I feel like that's a very baseline way to say, Meruem's a good villain. You can get to the thick of it and things like that and explain why you think he's particularly good or whatever. But from my experience, when I've talked to people about Aizen, the only thing I've heard, especially if they're not super duper into Bleach analysis or anything like that, is just he's cool, he's smart, and it's that's fine, right? I don't really care if you look too deep into his character, but I just feel like there's a dissonance between the analysis that Aizen and Bleach gets in general, versus kind of other main or other very prominent shonen, right? To me, Bleach gets that Dragon Ball treatment where everybody watches it and thinks they're absolutely. There was no thinking that went into this show whatsoever. What you see is exactly what you get. It couldn't be more surface layer. And I'm I don't know how, I disagree, right? I'll put it like that. I disagree that there's only one surface. So the Buddhist symbolism in this 80-page, I'm pretty sure college thesis on it that I was skimming over while I was making this video. I was yeah, okay.
You read thesis
At least-
papers as research for videos?
I'll send it to you after, like, while you're speaking or whatever. But basically, I mean, a lot of Aizen's appeal comes from, I think, his sort of, comes from the genius, but it comes from the, like, to me, the curse of being absurdly powerful and absurdly, like, godlike in comparison to everybody else in this verse, right? Like, it's almost this disdain for normality and disdain for, like, the current standards of the world, right? Which we see a lot of, like, when he talks to Urahara. It's almost like he's almost like disgusted that someone of his caliber, of that like level in terms of at least intelligence could be satisfied with the current way in which things work. And I think that him deciding that the only way for him to create, like the only way for him to be satisfied was to create something that could achieve a similar level of monstrous levels of power, and then be defeated by that to like almost to. How can I put this? Because I'm trying to like explain why I like him so much on the spot. But I think that that sort of Superman like quality. Do you know what I'm like? Do you know what I'm trying to get at? I don't know if it's, it's clear.
I know exactly what you're trying to get at. I just resent the first half of your theory. Here's why. So this was actually a part of my video that I'm not even sure if I cut or not, because a little behind the curtain for all of our listeners at home, but that was like a 2-hour like video that I had to cut down to 23 minutes. So there was a lot that just didn't make it into the final version that was eventually put on YouTube, right? And one of the things that like I got really mad about with Aizen's character, because I think I generally really liked Aizen. Like I like thoroughly enjoyed him as a character. It definitely made my top like 100 anime characters of all time list easily, right? Mm-hmm. And it's purely the Aizen is lonely thing that really grates on me, and I'll tell you why. If it was just Aizen's rebellious attitude, I would say, yeah, I'd say that's more than enough to make him an already amazing character, right? Because that's really all you need to explain a lot of his motivations and stuff, especially because it covers everything, including his feelings towards Urahara, why he did what he did, everything to like get him to that point, whatever. But the only thing that I read as an inconsistency or as bad writing, whatever you want to call it, is this whole Aizen being lonely thing.
Okay, what?
And I'll tell you why. There's 2 reasons for this. Their names are Yamamoto and Zaraki.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand like the point you're making, but I think that the problem is he's lonely. He's lonely not only in power, but like neither of them come close to his intelligence, right? Which is why like
Bro,
he values
Urahara and Mayuri cover that. Like that's the thing, right?
Well,
all 4 of these characters cover both sides of Aizen, but they exceed him almost in every sense. Like there is no singular column or category that Aizen is just solely alone in, and that's what bugs me about this whole Aizen.
I'll give you one column that he's solely alone in. It's ambition, right? He is the most probably the most ambitious character in the entire series. And I think that loneliness comes from, like, it's multifaceted. It's not just his strength, which he's top tier in, only being rivaled by, like, Kenpachi if his full power is unleashed, and, like, Bankai Yamamoto or whatever, right? But it's...
Whoa. I feel like you're lowballing both of them, because I'm talking... Let's do 2 forms of Aizen for this conversation. Let's say pre-Hogyoku Aizen and then post-Hogyoku Aizen, right? Those are like 2 vastly different creatures power-wise. And even then, I'd say pre-Hogyoku Aizen, and this people might be mad at me for this, but I don't think he was like that much more powerful than like Ukiura.
No, he's 100%. He's like literally objectively more powerful than the entire Espada combined. He says
that's his claim.
No, Gin states that. Well, first of all, Gin states that they literally would refuse to serve underneath him if he wasn't just in terms of raw power better than them, right? And it's not that.
So let's get into this. Let's get into this raw power thing really quick, just so like I get another beef out of my head. That Espada ranking system is so ass because it's based off Reiatsu for some fucking reason. Like, why? Out of all the things, right?
Reiatsu's the most important thing in a like a Bleach fight.
No, it's not. It's clearly not because, dude, Ukiura was number 4. Okay. 4.
So, what does that have to do with anything?
All right. Okay. Do you think Harry Bell was stronger than Ukiura? Do you think Baragon was stronger than Ukiura? Baragon might have been stronger. But do you think Coyote fucking Stark was stronger than Ukiura? It's insane.
I,
Like where,
I
like,
think so. I
what?
mean, if we listen.
Bro, oh my
There's
God.
a couple of trains that you can go down with Espada rankings. Like the Espada rankings are relatively contentious, right? But you cannot deny that like if you want to say like maybe some like there's some non-Reiatsu based way, like some hacks or maybe some like skill feats that Ukiura has, whatever, you can talk about it. But in terms of just Reiatsu, Ukiura has less and is weaker in that sense than everybody ranked above him, right?
But it's like a facet of power. It's like ranking them all by speed.
Well,
It's like, sure, you're like,
Reiatsu is like
it's one aspect.
it's kind of like we already know, right, on several occasions that Reiatsu is like you can say it is a facet, but it is the most important facet. If you have Reiatsu that completely eclipses another person, they cannot hurt you. Like Kenpachi versus Ichigo is a perfect example. Ichigo swung his blade at a Kenpachi, eclipsed in Reiatsu, right? And then he took damage because he attacked him, right? Aizen got hit by Soifon's like I can't remember the actual Japanese name of it, but like the two strike like insta kill thing, right? And he's like, yeah, since my Reiatsu is so much more powerful than yours, your hacks simply don't work, right? So like strength, cool, speed, cool, your hacks, cool, but if it comes down to just a Reiatsu battle, right, and you're so unbelievably fodder compared to them that you just get like soul crushed, it doesn't matter what your stats are, you'll just get bullied.
But the only time Reiatsu matters is with Aizen post Hogyoku, where his Reiatsu is like to the point where it melts you if you're just next to him.
It's not true. We see in the Soul Society arc, Kenpachi made Ichigo take damage from his own swing because his Reiatsu completely eclipsed his.
That was like the only time that happened. Like, name me one other time where Reiatsu was like the deciding factor and it wasn't Aizen. Go ahead.
Wait, why? We know that's a rule. Why do I have to like name like these several examples? We know it's like a rule
because if it's something that's established and then forgotten, it kind of ceases to be important in the story. Like, for example, right? If the House of Hell arc thing that's happening right now was never written, I can confidently say Kubo forgot about Hell in his own canon universe.
I don't think not consistently bringing something up means that you forgot about it, but
if it's like an aspect of the power system, I think it's a huge
Hell
thing.
isn't super important to the narrative that he's trying to tell with Bleach. It's an aspect of
I was talking about Reiatsu.
No, you mentioned Hell. You said you just mentioned Hell though. Wait, which point are we talking about?
I'm saying both like are emblematic of a thing, right? So I'm using the example of Hell to say if he forgot about this thing, right? And it's just a part of the world building of Bleach, then at some point you can just pick whenever he stopped like bringing up Hell. You could even say right after the final appearance of Hell before this arc. It was just, it doesn't matter.
You could say it's not an important aspect of the of like the story he's trying to tell in like Bleach, which is fine. I would agree with you. I think that's perfectly fine to do. But I'll you know what? I'll play into your thing, right? Yamamoto spiritual crushes Nanao when he's about to fight Shunsui and Ukitake, right? Back in the Soul Society arc. He spirit crushes her and she like falls down and like almost dies. She it's like here, let me show you real quick. She's like portrayed to be like unable to even exist near a passive like a somewhat angry Yamamoto, right? Like it's a thing that is shown, right? The only problem is most like Kubo, like he'll show characters that are more relative than like you just getting spirit crushed by another person, right? Like a lot of the times he'll show a character and they'll be somewhat relative, but they'll still lose, right? Like spirit crushes only happen, or like these massive feats of power only happen with a massive gap, right? So what I'm saying is spiritual pressure is still the most important thing, right? You just don't get these like insane feats of like getting like reverse Uno card in terms of your attack or whatever, unless there's this like insane gap, right? Ichigo has this weird thing where like, not weird thing, but this massive show of power where spiritual pressure is so potent that Aizen can't even sense it. Like there are several characters who do have this sort of transcendent spiritual pressure, if you will. It's not just Aizen or Kenpachi.
With the exception of like exceptional beings like Yamamoto or Kenpachi, right? What you can say is that Kubo, he forgets it or doesn't acknowledge it because by default, anybody that's on screen in Bleach that's fighting is at least comparable to some level, if not to the level bare minimum of just being able to exist in the other person's vicinity without being like vaporized, which is a fair argument, I think, to make, but to me, it rubs me the wrong way because it doesn't address some of the power scaling issues that I see in Bleach. In that, for example, you remember when Aizen was in his like pre butterfly form, like he just
He's
finished cocooning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he was like hunting down Ichigo's human friends, and like they were able to survive his Reiatsu.
Sure.
Like you see what I mean, right? Like that's asinine.
I mean, it's explained that he's literally holding back his Reiatsu. He does it almost that entire arc. He's holding back his Reiatsu, right? That's why at any point in the series where he has the Hogyoku and he starts fusing with it, that's why anybody besides Ichigo is ever able to sense him. He states as much that like he's like in his fight with like Don Guy Ichigo, right? He's like unless I'm holding back my spiritual pressure, it's impossible to be sensed now, right? But we know on multiple occasions in that same arc, while he was in that transformation, people could sense him and be aware of his presence. So what that means is every time spiritual pressure was even sensed by somebody else, he was holding back. So it's explained. Like if you want to say, like, and Aizen just like he just toys with people. I mean, it's not like it's out of character. Almost his entire showing, he's been displayed to be this very like smart person, yes, but also I wouldn't even say arrogant, but just self-aware of his strength, and that he doesn't really need to be wary of that many people in the verse.
Okay, so fine. I'll say I'll put it to you this way. I will settle for the default position in Bleach to be, unless they're holding back, they explicitly say they're holding back, or if they are within a reasonable margin of power of the other person, that it fits within the realm of this is okay. But if it's a direct violation, would you be okay with saying, yeah, that doesn't make sense?
What direct violation of like their spiritual pressure being relative or something? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say it was God. What do you call like Mukin Aizen, right? It's like definitively stated to be his strongest form, right? So let's say somebody like, I don't know, a random lieutenant, or like Rukia or somebody at that time, and Aizen was like fully not holding back his Reiatsu. Do you think Rukia is like in the same ballpark as Aizen, Mukin Aizen, with like a straight face?
No, but Mukin Aizen is a little bit interesting because you have to get extremely close to him to even feel his spiritual pressure, right? It's kept extremely close to his body, so there's like inverse reasoning.
Yeah, but that's only when he was chained.
No, it's his seals completely, like all, because he has his seals on the entire like Blood War arc, right? And
no, because wait, when you say seals, are you referring to the chair or the bindings that he's wearing?
The bindings that he's wearing. The bindings that he's wearing are what keeps it close to his body.
Okay, go on.
So basically, right, you can have an inverse reason for some fodder tier like captain or whatever, right? Like Soifon being able to exist in Aizen's presence without any trouble or without any mention of spiritual pressure, because it's kept extremely, like, they can't get rid of it, right? And they can't negate it. So all they can do is keep it almost like a second layer of skin, if you will, right? So you have to step in that boundary in order for it to happen, which is like, yeah, I don't think there's any time in the series where Mukin Aizen is like near anybody that's so fodder that they shouldn't even be able to stand up next to him or whatever, right?
But I'm saying, like, the question was if that were to ever happen, right? Let's say Aizen's thing was loosened to like a 1 meter radius or something reasonable like that, right? Like whatever fighting distance is, and it was like somebody such as Rukia, and he was actively like full Reiatsu, like it was really just the potency of it was he was giving it his all.
Sure.
And she not only like is able to like survive, but is able to just fight him on the same like playing field. Wouldn't you consider that, like, wouldn't that bug you?
If Rukia was able to fight Aizen and she was like swapping sword strikes with him, yes, that'd be a problem. But let me ask you this question real quick. Do you know, it's not Grimjoww. Who, you know that guy that helped Ichigo get into, like, break into the Soul Society? Like the guy who rode the hog or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy with the weird eyebrows, right?
Yeah. Right. So
yeah.
He is able to stand up in Kenpachi's spiritual pressure arena, right? So the question is, do you think Rukia is weaker compared to Aizen than that guy is to Kenpachi, and whatever answer you get, like if you think Rukia is closer to Aizen than other guy was close to Kenpachi, then
No, but there's an exception because that Kenpachi, Soul Society Kenpachi, was probably his weakest form
I
because
agree.
at that point he had like a billion seals on his power.
No, I agree, but he's still at like that. That's why I'm asking you. Like, it just depends on how, because that Kenpachi still obliterated that Ichigo initially, right? And that Ichigo, we would pretty sure would agree would obliterate, like in a serious confrontation, would obliterate this guy. So I'm just like, there's still massive gaps, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't trying to hurt Kenpachi, first of all. So this is such a weird example because that guy wasn't necessarily a Soul Reaper or Quincy. He was just a guy, basically, with like some parlor tricks. But let's say like he was... I can't imagine him being able to hurt Kenpachi even if they were on the same Reiatsu playing field because, like, physically speaking, it just wouldn't take, if that makes sense.
Well, okay, no, I'm not saying he's attacking him. What I'm asking you is, like, do you think Rukia would be able to stand in the presence of, like, Mook and Aizen, basically?
Unleashed?
Yeah, and that, like just Aizen, not like, because there's a little bit of difference. Like, Aizen can not necessarily hold back, but not intend to spirit crush you, because Aizen can, like, all right, like what he did with Grimjoww, right? Grimjoww got up to leave, and he's like, where do you think you're going? And he made him, like, kneel or whatever, just by, like, flexing. Basically,
yeah.
Like, do you think Rukia could survive, like, not an attack from Aizen, but a spiritual, like, flexing, if you will, in the 1,000-year blood arc for both of them?
Survive, but not be able to thrive.
Sure,
that makes sense.
I would agree. That's about where I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a happy middle ground between our two positions when it comes to this.
Mm-hmm. So, this all stemmed from, was this like the power scaling issue you had? Because I still feel like I'm still a little bit confused on like where the issue is with like.
Well, that power scaling issue was very specific to the Espada situation because they were ranked like deliberately by another character.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of annoyed that Reiatsu was like the deciding factor. When I'll put it to you this way, I genuinely believe Ukiura could have bodied Haribel or Coyote Stark, but would have like a hard time battling Baragon.
Because of hacks? I mean,
yeah, but like Baragon's ability is already insane, right? Like first, like right off the bat.
Sure.
But then, I think about who he fought, and he did fight Soifon and the healer from the Vizards.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, like, they're weak by any means. I'm just saying...
No, they're weak. You can say they're weak. They're not very strong in comparison to everybody else, yeah.
I know, but it's just like Soifon's a captain, so I feel bad saying that. And she's not even a weak captain. Like, we've seen weak captains. But, yeah, like, just, like, shit like that. Like, versus battles in Bleach bug me for the reasons of if A can beat B, then C can beat D. And that you see that like line of thinking should usually hold up in I think most well-written forms of battle fiction where they have like fully fleshed out power systems. Like just to get a little annoyed here for a second about the people under my Hunter x Hunter power tier list video that keep saying shit like you should have put Gon and Killua higher. I'm like, I don't think you've like watched or read Hunter x Hunter. I genuinely think you lack any understanding of the source material, and here is why. If you pay attention, you know that they are underpowered protagonists. They do not stand a chance against almost any of the antagonists after the Hunter exam. The only way they are able to like manage to survive, emphasis on survive, is either through very like well thought out plans, an obscene amount of durability and hacks, and I'll be real, luck. So by the end of it, I get this like one comment, and it just pissed me off, dude. I gotta share this with you. So this guy said, "But didn't Killua like outclass the Royal Guard?" Referring to Killua in his Godspeed form, fighting Yuppie during the castle raid, and it bugged me because it was just so fundamental. Like it was such a broken line of logic that I need to vent about it for 30 seconds, and then it'll be emblematic of like what I mean with Bleach. It'll loop back around in and of itself, right? So the reason that makes no sense is because A, that wasn't a fight. Killua was invisible between attacks because of melee Oron, And finally, and this is super important, Yuppie himself stated, they do not hurt, they just keep coming out of nowhere, and it's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So when all of these things are stacked together and you leave a comment like that, it tells me you are either selectively reading or not reading at all, or hell, I'll even say watching. It's even expressed in the anime.
That's fair, but what if they weren't talking about Yuppie? Like, couldn't they be talking about they did specifically say Yuppie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we talk about the other royal guard he fought with what's his face? Poof, it also wouldn't hold any water because Poof was actively fighting with one hand tied behind his back because Komugi was there, and Killua was like being deliberately irritating with that. So neither of them, wasn't really able to fight him the way he could have wanted. It's the same reason that Pito or Poof could have obliterated Gon at any point in time if Komugi wasn't there, like needing to be healed.
I agree on that part, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Poof says even if I were at full power, I wouldn't be healed or anything like that. And then obviously Killua was able to like. Poof isn't nearly as durable as Yuppie, so I mean that's why Killua was able to like burn his cells or whatever. But it's not really that big of a deal.
But also at the time, Poof was actively like he had split himself a great deal when he was like against Killua, and I think if I remember correctly, this was after he fed Meruem like most of his power. And remember, so like this was him like divided a couple times over.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that comment just like really pissed me off, and I needed to get it off my chest. But where that kind of comment it comes in regards to Bleach is that what I've referenced with the Hunter x Hunter example is that that's a really fleshed out power system because it doesn't give Killua and Gon all these like screaming power ups, like you know what I mean, the Super Saiyan power ups,
Sure.
I just got like demon inside stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to like be creative with how they beat their opponents. Now in Bleach, I like to give Kubo credit where credit's due. The only person he seems to like really abuse this tactic with is Ichigo, and I've more or less like turned a blind eye to it. Like it doesn't annoy me as much because he keeps doing it in a way that's within the realm of like I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to other characters is where he slips up. Oh, perfect example. So Grimjoww versus Ichigo at full like second release Resurrection is still able to rip out Askin's heart out at the end of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. And so here is my line of logic, and here's how I interpret the story. And you can tell me if the problem is my interpretation, the way the story was written, or if there's just something wrong that's a hybrid of these two things. So the way I understand it is Askin being the third strongest Quincy is like all of the Espada, basically, in terms of power. So when I see the sixth Espada being able to just like rip his heart out and like just wail on him, I don't buy it.
Okay, so is the problem that like you think Grimjoww is like the same strength as when he when he was beaten by Ichigo?
Wasn't he?
No. I mean he can't be actually. I mean for one, the fact that he was able to stand in like true Shikai Ichigo's like presence kind of to me implies he's already stronger. Ichigo like kind of shat himself when Grimjoww, like obviously there's a surprise of like somebody he thought he beat showing up, but like I'm pretty sure like Grimjoww pulls up and Ichigo like grabs his sword out of like kind of like as you would be like defensively, right? Like, but if Grimjoww was so weak, right? Because if Grimjoww was the same powers when he was in Hueco Mundo, Ichigo could quite literally just stand there and let Grimjoww throw out his most powerful attack with zero difficulty, in my opinion, right? The gap is just that large between these two characters at this point. But so Ichigo's like, here, I'll show you real quick. When Grimjoww like takes out his sword, right? Ichigo's like ready to fight, and he's like, he looks, like not intimidated, like scared or whatever, but definitely like, okay, I'm ready to have an actual fight with this person and not just like, shit on them or whatever. To me, it implies like there, for whatever reason, I think it goes into it in the novels, like Grimjow's powers extrapolated on more, but for whatever reason, Grimjoww is stronger than he was before.
Even if he was, he shouldn't be that strong, if that makes sense. Because again, Askin was insanely, like almost offensively powerful, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly due to Askin's like hacks, but yeah, he's very strong.
Exactly. So what bugs me is just that the ease of which he was able to defeat Askin is irritating.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Askin beat him when they were initially fighting, right? Like, Grimjoww did lose. Like, he got bullied in their fight, in fact, right? Urahara just put Grimjoww back together so he could stab an off-guard Askin. Like, if you're talking about, like, oh, it doesn't make sense that Grimjoww could, like, 1v1 Askin, I would agree. Or at least I would think it would be a little bit weird or contrived to make him come back and fight so easily, right? But Urahara, like, puts Grimjoww back together, allows Grimjoww to, like, kind of help him out for a second, right? And then Grimjoww was able to then sneak up behind him.
No, I know, like, the elements of surprise is obviously a huge factor, but just the fact that he got that far.
Well, like, what do you mean? Like, he got that strong or whatever?
Yeah, because wouldn't the Reiatsu rule kind of disable his ability to even penetrate his skin in the first place?
Wait, okay, so the Reiatsu thing, well, I mean, that would just mean, like, he was able to, like, I think True Shikai Ichigo and Askin are close enough in power where, you know, he can stab him or whatever. Like, I don't think that's like the Reiatsu argument is that much of a problem when Grimjow's already somewhat implied to be in this level of power now.
I'm trying to think of a different example, because maybe that one just wasn't as obvious as I want it to be. Yeah, it's just that Kubo's most used characters battle-wise are Kenpachi, Ichigo, and like Byakuya, right? Mm-hmm. So with Ichigo and Kenpachi, it's almost not fair to like have this problem with them because they're obvious exceptions to like every rule that Kubo's established.
Yeah,
right?
Kenpachi gets stronger like when needed because of the holding back thing, and Ichigo's like this hybrid that literally just gets stronger through fighting. So most things can be alleviated by saying, okay, yeah, he's stronger because he had a tough battle, got healed, whatever.
Bro, I can't wait for the Hell War to be underway and for us to find out that Ichigo's like part demon.
That'd be wild.
That'd be so fucking funny. And like your granddad's like second cousin was part demon. You like. But I just want to get off topic for a second. I want to give a little shout out to all the people listening because I don't know if you've noticed, BR, but last episode that we shot is like already on track to be our most viewed episode.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it's been like 2 days and it's already like our second most viewed podcast, and it's on the way to like beat our pilot.
That's dope.
Yeah, and the outpouring of support just means the world, and we obviously have gotten a small boost in subs. I think we went from 120 to like 160. So I'll just reiterate it here, and like for every podcast moving forward, guys, we do love making this podcast. At least I know I do. I can't really speak for BR. I don't know if that he enjoys anything.
I hate everything. I can't find happiness. Sorry.
Well, the first step is admitting it. Anyways, so we do appreciate you guys, watching, listening, viewing, subscribing. So with that in mind, we would ask you yet again to smash all of these metrics, especially the like button, but double especially for the subscribe button, because we do want the community tab. We want to be able to engage with you guys more directly with polls, questions, etc., etc. And I think for a cool like 10K milestone or something crazy along those lines, I want to do like a proper fan Q&A question or audience Q&A question. I hate using the word fan. That was my apologies. So, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And thank you so much for all the love you've shown us on the previous episodes that we've already shot. So I just wanted to quickly say that. If you have anything to add, BR, go off.
No, do all those things or else I'm going to come find you. So, there's that.
All right. Good stuff. So... I want to know like what your opinion of Fullbringer actually is, because I know on Twitter you kind of joke about how amazing it is. I don't know if you're being hyperbolic or that's just a version of what you believe, or that's literally what you believe. But like, I'm curious, like, what's your like Fullbringer feeling summary?
It's an overhated arc in terms of Bleach stuff. I feel like a lot of people said they wanted Kubo to do a different like arc type formula for Bleach, and when he actually does it, they get upset because Fullbringer is quite a bit different from like Hueco Mundo in Soul Society. I think it was pretty important to Ichigo's like personal development. I think its antagonists are relatively weak in comparison to others, but I also think its focus on like Ichigo outside of battles is also like quite a bit better. So it somewhat evens it out for me. To me, it's more of like an Ichigo-centric arc. Like it's more of an arc that's like based around like the supporting cast is quite a bit smaller, like in comparison to like Soul Society. The things that are happening are much less. More focuses on, like Ichigo being powerless, what that means to him as a character, like how that like inflates like his certain fears that he has or whatever, and things like that. So I just think in kind of like an exchange for lowering the quality of other things, Ichigo's growth, or at least my enjoyment of Ichigo as a character, was inflated during Fullbringer. So I'd say it's a pretty good arc. It's different, but I really like it. What have I said on Twitter that makes you think it's like hyperbolic or whatever?
You said it was better than Chimera Ant.
I mean, I guess I'd have to reread them, but like I probably enjoy Fullbringer more.
I mean, I can like, without me being hyperbolic, I can tell you why I disliked
Sure,
Fullbringer. So I think a lot of my anger towards Fullbringer is in that it had a lot of ambition but didn't hit any of it, in that it does the Kubo thing. Like when I said in my video, it's emblematic of all of Kubo's worst habits rolled into a single arc. It's a lot of amazing setup, shit payoff, but like to the 10th degree. So a great example of this is the main antagonists, right? What's the Tsukimichi? Like, how do you say his name? Tsukishima was like a great villain, right? Really got under Ichigo's skin in a way that I think no other villain except for Aizen has ever done. Even, I think, deeper than Yuwatch ever got in Thousand Year Blood War arc. Like, to get the same reaction out of Ichigo that Tsukimichi... How do you say it again? Sorry. Tsukishima. To get the same reaction Tsukishima got out of Ichigo, Yuwatch had to like almost literally destroy reality. You know what I mean? So I do think that was amazing in that regard. However, the problem comes down from, despite Kubo doing this experimental thing and like it actually having a lot of potential, I know when I definitely got introduced to the idea of items having souls, that we got introduced through Grimjoww and the scotch that he drank, I was like, whoa, this is a cool little aspect of the lore. It's never been brought up again after that, after Fullbringer, you know? And I would have loved to see something like that, and I especially would have loved to see a bigger expansion to the Bleach lore that was more permanent and contributed more to the overall story as it was written, right? But the way it ended up unfolding was kind of bad in that once Ichigo regains his powers through the Soul Reapers, basically collectively jump-starting his body, it kind of defeats the purpose of making him a Fullbringer in the first place, if you ask me, because at that point, he's so much stronger than whatever his Fullbring form could have like given him, that it's hilarious. You know what I mean? And he basically just does one-shot Grimjoww, and that's not even to get into the other Fullbringers being almost comically pathetic. So for me, a lot of the frustrations with Fullbringer come from, it's so frustrating because it really could have been a stellar arc had it been like, 30 more chapters, give or take, with like more permanent effects of the beginning or first half of the story.
I mean,
I think those are fair criticisms.
So for a couple of things, I mean, I think while it's not necessarily attributed to the idea of being like a Fullbring power, I think the concept of like objects containing souls is continued and expanded upon in a lot of detail in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, right? The idea of like Godard's Hofung's blade being something that encapsulates the hopes of the Quincy's, the idea of Zanpakuto in general having names and names being emblematic of like kind of personhood, right? I honestly think that Fullbringer, this is just my personal interpretation of it, I don't know how like whatever you can say this is, but I think that while Fullbringer in terms of power was not really that necessarily like it didn't advance Ichigo's power all that much. I feel like it was almost a necessary step in the evolution of Ichigo to get closer to like Zangetsu. To me, it comes across as like the Fullbringer powers is like the the awareness or understanding that like have souls, right? That these Zanpakuto, that these previously considered like inanimate objects have souls, and we see like with basically everyone's Bankai in the Thousand Year Blood War, whereas before we were somewhat aware like they were spiritual beings, but they weren't highlighted to this degree, right? Kenpachi's Bankai is personified, Byakuya's Bankai is personified, Rukia's is, Ichigo's most certainly is, right? Which leads us to like the line of it, you know, being like, I won't ask for your help anymore, Zangetsu. I won't ask you to lend me power, right? Nor will I ask you to leave me alone because you are me, right? Like they're tied together type thing. And like Renji's Bankai, it lying to him because it didn't like open itself up fully or whatever. Honestly, I think Fullbring is going from a Fullbringer arc where we are now introduced to the concept of everything having souls to an arc where we're now like, holy shit, like these Soul Reapers can get so much more powerful. Ichibe is so powerful because they're understanding that what they're wielding are not just like, it's not just metal with a handle on it, right? It's quite a bit deeper than that. So for me, I think if you look at Fullbring and say from start to finish, right, it doesn't expand upon that, like the soul to object relationship, sure, but I look at it more as like a continuous story or narrative throughout the entire thing. So I look at Fullbring being build up for what is next to come, or the conclusion, I guess, being the Thousand Year Blood War arc. I don't know if that like clears up or recontextualizes things.
No, because I understand the significance it had in the story. I'm just saying that wasn't the doing of the arc storytelling. It was more of the Soul Reapers giving Ichigo back his powers. Because actually, I wanna take that back a little bit because I just remembered the Fullbringers coming in clutch near the end of the arc. But the aspect of Grimjoww as a villain, kind of revealing the whole business with Ukitake's medallion, it fell on deaf ears for me. And it's also the same beef I have with Thousand Year Blood War arc, actually. But Chad and Uryuu were disregarded in their own arcs. You know what I mean? Like in their own namesake arcs.
What do you mean? What do you mean their arc?
Chad, you know, the Fullbringer, the day one Fullbringer, who keeps getting bodied in an arc that's supposed to be scaled way back, right? Because you could say the Arankars were just way too much for Chad to handle at a certain point. You can't say that like the Fullbringers were just so astronomically more powerful than Chad that he would have been made useless by their presence, because that just wasn't the case, right? And with that in mind, the fact that he was asleep for like half of it...
I mean, okay, so you say Chad got bodied, but like, who does he really fight that he shouldn't lose to?
Honestly, anybody. Even
Grimjoww bully Chad, honestly.
Before he took Ichigo's powers.
Yeah, I mean...
Tsukishima, obviously, is the exact... Like, I think Tsukishima's probably the most underrated villain power-wise, because his abilities, like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like the reverse almighty. Like, it's astronomically powerful, right? Just his fight with Byakuya alone showed how, like, insane he is as a fucking combatant or as a villain. Like, I'll definitely concede that. But short of that ability, I think Chad definitely could have at least been like the second strongest Fullbringer. And you know, I saw there's this Bleach YouTuber that I've been watching recently because I really liked his stuff. Mr. Tomo, I think is his username. He said this one thing that like made me realize just how wasted Chad was in even the Thousand Year Blood War, because he was like, do you remember that detail about how the Quincy's have like, an inherent like natural weakness to anything hollow related if it enters their bodies? So he said, you know, that's Chad's like whole deal. He could have been a definite asset when the Quincy's came to invade, because he could have not been as useless if he was like their natural enemy. And even I'll concede, yeah, sure, Chad wouldn't have been able to handle anybody above a certain level of Quincy, but he definitely wouldn't have been useless. And this is the thing that always bugs me, right? With Fullbringer, as I mentioned before, every single problem is aggregated and combined, and it's like all of everything that Kubo's ever done to infuriate me just condensed into this one arc, and it just grates on me. And with Chad, it was especially egregious because these were like other humans for the most part, and they were within his margin of power. And the fact that he was just sidelined again...
But the reason he was sidelined is because he wasn't fighting them. He didn't fight really any of the Fullbringers. Tsukishima, like, used Book of the End to make him want to fight Ichigo, right? Like, but Chad just doesn't it's not really like, and I guess you could say it's like it's Chad's arc in the sense that like it's about Fullbringers and he's a Fullbringer, but I mean, besides that, I feel like it's obviously Ichigo's the main character, so every arc's gonna be his arc in that sense. But like, I
Yeah.
feel like this is probably the most like percentage screen time Ichigo's ever gotten in one arc, simply because there's just not like they just focus so much on him and no other like very few other characters. I just feel like this is the most Ichigo arc you can get in the entire series to me. Maybe barring Substitute Shinigami, which is like the introduction.
But I think it's just so much more disrespectful when you think about the fact that Ichigo just has this astronomical amount of screen time. Except, ironically, in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, I think he was pretty underutilized in that arc, to be honest with you. And it just because how do the frustration with me that I even have now is that shouldn't even be a problem. Like, Kubo shouldn't need to dedicate like a secondary arc after his big like climax with Aizen to dive into his protagonist, because he has other characters that he's also underdeveloped. You know what I mean? Especially Uryuu, and not as especially, but like Chad too. Because
I mean,
when I think of Chad, when I think of Chad and Uryuu, I definitely think wasted potential.
I mean, I can see that, but like, I do take problem with the idea that like he shouldn't like focus on protagonist. To me, after a conflict with like his greatest antagonist, it's like the most important time to check in or like do an introspective arc with the main character, because everything up to that point past Soul Society has just been go 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 go. You know, do everything you can to not die. Right? Ichigo's been sort of this person that is like just a survival instinct for like 2 arcs straight, right? And seeing that pull back and like who is Ichigo outside of battle, or you know, does Ichigo even exist when he's not protecting other people? Blah blah blah. You can get into all that. Like I feel like that's like the most important time to get into him.
See, the thing is, I think where my gripe is with Fullbringer, when I hear your the reasons you like it, is that I was pretty satisfied with the amount of character development Ichigo had gotten up until that point. So I didn't see it as a like necessity to be explored that much in Fullbringer. It's just when it comes down to it, right? Like you said, the Substitute Shinigami arc was like, it did wonders for establishing Ichigo's hero complex, his savior complex, and everything since then, and like every action he's like taken has been more or less a reinforcement of that. Has gone further in just giving you a clear idea of like what Ichigo's all about as a person. So I don't think Fullbringer was like that necessary. And as far as reveals go, I think if you want to get into that aspect of Ichigo's past, the Thousand Year Blood War arc definitely took it all the way to, you know, its natural end with Ichigo's backstory, obviously with Zangetsu and everything, but especially with his parents meeting, it was like way more, it was just better in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, and it just to me feels like a waste of time.
I mean, I guess it might just be different things. I honestly think giving Chad an arc is a waste of like chapters, or giving, I think I think even giving him a majority, or even like honestly giving Chad much. Okay, so this is just like, I know a lot of people, it's like this common thing that like, you know, Chad is like wasted potential. It's fine. I don't really care personally if you feel like he's wasted potential. Like I'm not like mad like, oh, you're wrong or whatever. But like Chad was never, there was probably not a single chapter to me where I'm like, damn, I really want to see more of Chad, right? I don't care about him. So like Chad being sidelined to me is like, but there's not a single point I cared about Chad. He's just he's part of like Ichigo's friend group, which is cool, but his purpose for me started and ended there, and I was perfectly fine with that. Like I don't have to deeply care about every single character on screen. It's impossible for that to even happen. There's not a single anime or manga I can think of where every character I care about, and Chad just happened to be one that I don't like or care about all that much.
Okay, but is that a symptom of your opinion of Chad from the bits you've gotten so far, or is that does Kubo have to shoulder a lot of the blame for not giving you enough reason to care about him in the first place by constantly sidelining him? It's kind of like a chicken egg scenario.
But I'm saying I don't think that's like I think that would just be a criticism of like writing multiple characters in a story, not like of Bleach in particular, because there's not a single story where you can say, oh, you know, I love every character. Would you say like, oh yeah, every author is like has like these major faults in their writing because every character that pops up and is named, you don't care about, or unless you're like One Piece or something where you're going on forever, right? You're gonna go until the end of time. I feel like it's just unreasonable to be like, every character has to be this super dope character that gets like this major fight. Like I just don't think it's realistic. So that's why I don't blame Kubo for it. I just think it's just a product of writing a cast. I think that it's just necessary to have characters that are not that deep, not that cool, and not that interesting. And I'm fine with Chad being that. I never got a bad taste in my mouth that Chad wasn't that cool. It was just like, he's a character who's here occasionally to do stuff.
Who is the Bakugo of Bleach?
Like the Deuteragonist?
Who is the Vegeta?
Rukia?
Yes.
Probably?
No.
Rukia is definitely more important.
Isn't that a rival?
But I asked about the Deuteragonist. The Deuteragonist doesn't have to be a rival. It's just the second most important character. Like the second most important, like, protagonistic character or whatever.
You know what? That's actually a really good answer. And I never thought of it that way. I guess that's just my biases showing themselves, so I apologize.
Cool. Even if you want to say rival, Renji would still be him. To me, Renji's more of a rival. Renji's definitely a better rival than Chad is.
Renji sucks, man. I do not like Renji. I feel like I'm supposed to, but he just didn't take for me. I feel like he isn't. I'm not particularly fond of him. Like his character design, his like motivations, his like whole vibe just doesn't. It isn't for me. Mm-hmm. And you know when you can tell an author has favorites. Yeah. I don't know why Kubo is so infatuated with Renji, because he keeps giving him.
You think he's infatuated with Renji?
I'll be real, man.
Renji gets bullied the entire series.
Bro, but he's on screen for so much of it, and he gets like 3 Bankai. Also, speaking of his Bankai real quick, his first Bankai was fugly. It was just nasty Bankai, dude. It was just gross to look at. It was so cumbersome. Just looking at it made me feel heavier. So I was glad that like he fixed that. But otherwise, like, Renji's not that impressive. And there's one time I actually enjoyed Renji's character, and that was against the fight with the Fullbringer lady. Because I'll be honest with you, my opinion of Renji is so low. I genuinely thought he was going to lose that fight. With a straight face, I was like, yeah, this is where Renji gets his ass kicked. And the fact that he didn't made me kind of happy. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was a pleasant surprise. And then he said, I've been training to fight somebody on the level of Aizen. And I don't know, but like that made me laugh so hard, like audibly when I watched it, like in my fucking room, just like to no one else listening. I just laughed. And I think about it from time to time, and I'm like laughing again because later in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, he does kind of come in contact with Aizen again, and he's like, oh my god, he got even stronger. That damn monster. And I'm like, yeah, Renji, weren't you training to fight him? Come on, go ahead. He's right there. Show him who's boss.
Yeah.
I'm training to fight somebody on the level of Aizen.
I don't know. I definitely like Renji. Like, so my first answer to like the Deuteragonist, like the second, I'd definitely be Rukia. Rukia's to me, she's the first character I think she's the first person we see in Bleach. And she's obviously this catalyst for Ichigo's growth. She's the main motivation that he goes to the Soul Society and gets as strong as he does. Like, I mean, like, she's not in his direct crew as much as like Chad or like Uryuu, but like if you want to take it to like its extreme, neither is like a Sasuke, right? Sasuke is not even friends with Naruto. He's not near Naruto a majority of the time he's in the series, but he's still very clearly like the second most important person, right? And it's honestly he's very close to being the first because he has nearly as much screen time as Naruto. His actions dictate a lot of Naruto's blah blah blah, and I feel like Rukia kind of fills that role in the sense that she's not necessarily meant to rival him or be like this like Oonga Boonga Chad that's like supposed to like fight Ichigo a lot. But I do think Rukia is that role, and to me, I think she gets enough shine in that role. I like Rukia, and I think like, if Rukia were relegated to like a Chad role, even though she's supposed to be super important to Ichigo's character, right? Then yeah, I'd see a problem. I just think Chad's more like a Leorio vibes in terms of like his importance to the narrative.
Oh,
like he doesn't matter all that much, so I'm fine if he.
Leorio is an infinitely better written character, despite him having similar amounts of screen time relative like to Hunter x Hunter's overall run.
Leorio is not that good. I will say that. Leorio is extremely boring.
Ronin, how do you keep missing? I don't understand. How do you just like wake up?
He's a bum, bro. He's boring. He's lame.
He's literally a med student.
Okay, that's
man.
fine. I don't really care about a med student in a battle shonen. Like, it's cool. Like, it's fine that he has his own
Also,
dreams.
he's
but,
like,
I don't like him,
bro. He is like the best fucking friend ever in shonen. This guy is ride or die
was
for his
definitely
friends.
a better friend, but you know.
Well, Gon's the worst friend out of all
Gon
of them.
is a bad friend, but I would say Killua is definitely a better friend to Gon than Leorio is.
I mean, Leorio did punch Jean in the face, so I gotta give him credit for that.
I mean, that's fine, but who healed Gon from dying?
Oh, right. Okay, you know what? Let's not go down this rabbit hole. I don't want to hear your terrible Hunter x Hunter takes any more than you want to hear my terrible Naruto takes.
But in any case, right? So, you know, you asked me who the Deuteragonist is in my eyes, it's Rukia. You asked me who like Ichigo's main rival is supposed to be. It definitely comes off as Renji, and the reason I say Renji is because I feel like to some extent there's like a parallel between them. Like Ichigo or Renji is no, let me rephrase that. Ichigo is what Renji tried to be initially in the Soul Society, like this sort of this unencumbered, determined character that is willing to do whatever it takes to save his friends. And Renji isn't able to do that initially. That's why, you know, until Ichigo,
they have the relationship.
Until Ichigo beats Renji and like shows him, I'm going to change Rukia's fate here, right? Renji's like, holy shit! Like I don't have to be like tied down to the Soul Society's previous notions of, I guess, of like honor and things like that, or like tradition. I think that's why I consider them closer in terms of rivalry.
But wouldn't you say that in the initial run of Bleach, like its very start, it was Uryuu that was like teased to be that, considering the way he was introduced and the subsequent parallels since then, and especially when it comes to the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, I think that there is definitely more that Kubo might have wanted to do with Uryuu's character that he just might not have gotten a chance to. Like, do you remember this one scene? Or this one panel, it was super early on in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, and I mean like maybe the first 10 or 20 chapters. It was when you remember what's his name, Quilky,
yeah.
the first Quincy that was introduced, in Hueco Mundo. When Ichigo was like, "Oh man, your arrows are stronger than Ishida's," and he was like, "My impossible." And you were like, and to me that was like, "Whoa, what's going on here? Is there something special about good old Uryuu?" And then, I'm reading the chapters and it never gets brought up again. And then suddenly he's Yuachi's successor. And I know they kind of explained it as he survived the Ashwallen for X, Y, and Z, but like they never explain how that's possible. And I think that's a huge misstep because, and this is very important, Uryuu is not a full-blooded Quincy. So you can't even make that argument that he was just like so genetically superior to the other Quincy that it just, that rule didn't apply to him. And the fact that like other Quincy were able to just sort of not even casually survive the Ashwallen, like Bazz-B, for example, I think is a big inconsistency in Kubo's writing. And I'll put it to you this way. I don't think it's like unfair of me to make these criticisms, especially with the 1,000-Year Blood War arc.
Okay, so like, what's the problem with like the Ashwallen, like with Uryuu surviving it or whatever?
The implication was that Uryuu is special in some way. The Ashwallen was Yuachi's like criteria for judging his specialty. Okay. So he was like, "Oh, you survived it when I activated it all those years ago when Ichigo's mother died, and Uryuu's mother died." So that kind of the implication being that he's special for some reason, especially to be considered Yuachi's successor, but it doesn't get expanded upon beyond, "Oh, you survived," not necessarily how or why that it's even a thing, or like it's so interesting to me. Like this is a recurring problem in Bleach. It's stuff happens that's so interesting that just gets me on the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh my god, I want to know what happens. And then I don't know if Kubo forgets or he prioritizes or what the fuck happens, but like it's just gone. Like it's just abandoned.
So I mean,
yeah,
I guess, but like I feel like Uryuu is shown to be like kind of like pretty strong, or at least like somewhat special when he's able to fight, like hold off like damn it, I don't know why I can't remember his name. But he was able to fight off like Yuha's like right hand man who had the Almighty for like 12 hours straight.
Yurgum.
Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name, but He is like,
Oh, bro, I wouldn't blame you. Fucking, have you seen his name?
But I mean, he had the Almighty for like 12 hours straight, right? And Uryuu like didn't immediately die. Like I feel like like fighting somebody with that ability and living to me already is like it already makes you special.
That's such an ass pull because it's not explained how he's able to do that. It's just kind of taken at face value that he can.
What do you mean it's not explained?
By Noah, like Uryuu has never been shown to be particularly special, like in the same way that Ichigo has. He is not like a full-blooded, pure-blood Quincy. His mother is only half Quincy, right? So you can't even go along that route. His father isn't some like legendary fucking Quincy as far as we know. And there's nothing particularly special about him or legendary about him to indicate that he should be capable of the things he's capable of. It's just kind of like Kubo assumes because he's like a main character that you think he's like that special. So to me, like if this was any other series except for Bleach, people would say, "Oh, this is bad writing." Like where did this come from?
I mean, people say it's people
like,
people say
it comes
it's bad
out of
writing
nowhere
because it's Bleach. If I'm being honest with you, but I will say that like for saying that Uryuu isn't portrayed to be special, I think it's just like ignoring like especially one moment in the Soul Society. Remember when he like I don't know why, like for some reason I just can't remember any like Bleach terms today, but like remember when Uryuu like in order to get stronger trained with like the Quincy thing on his hand for like 7 days and 7 nights and then took it off versus Mayuri. Like he one shot a captain, that same captain, like because Mayuri's never portrayed to train. He doesn't the only thing that changes about Mayuri is like the abilities he equips himself with, right? That Mayuri goes on and still is like relevant in the 1,000-Year Blood War. Like I feel like that is a retroactive, like super impressive like feat for Uryuu because what that all that gauntlet does is bring out the latent potential of a Quincy, and for Uryuu to be able to one shot that Mayuri, like speed blitz and one shot him with his like arrow, and that Mayuri like later down the line, one who's never portrayed a trainer, even implied to, because that's not really what he does, is then like fighting like the right hand of the Soul King. I mean, well, it's not explained. Yeah, okay, it's because of this, and this. He's super special. He is portrayed to be special early on in the series. He's portrayed to have a lot of potential early on in the series.
That's not really because Mayuri is not necessarily a particularly OP captain. Like you said, his strength lies more in his intellect and like how he equips himself. So the people in the Stern Rid are like arguably more impressive than Uryuu.
Not at all.
And the antithesis thing was a thing bestowed upon Uryuu by Yuachi, wasn't like his innate ability.
Sure. But most of the abilities they have were bestowed upon by Yuha.
Even the ones that were given an ability by Yuha had varying degrees of power. Like I know for a fact. Oh, here's another power scaling issue. So this is a two birds one stone thing for me. Remember when Bazz-B was like, "Yeah, I was holding back Yamamoto's flames from like incinerating us." You just accept that. You're just like, yeah, Bazz-B he can obviously take down Yamamoto. Like, is that how you read it?
I just think his fire resistance and fire manipulation is relative to a Yamamoto who's not attacking them. Yes,
he was attacking them in like his unsheathed.
He was attacking the fake Yuha. Like he was holding them back from dying by being near them, right? But like it's not like Yamamoto was like Bankai, you know, and then like attacked them, right? Like they wouldn't have been able to survive that. I don't, but I think like holding back the flames of like the heat that his spiritual pressure was emitting, right, is like it's impressive, but it's not like some like power scaling breaking thing because it's like I just don't think it's the same as like having those flames directed towards you.
Bro, I knew this would be a frustrating episode.
Of course it would. We fundamentally disagree on like a lot of Bleach stuff.
I'm enjoying it. I don't know about you.
Oh no, for sure.
Okay, if we can get into the power scaling thing, because I think this could be an episode all in of its own. You know, granted, I have the examples ready for next time, so apologies for that. You know, I gotta come prepared next time. My beef is that with somebody like Yamamoto, who is fighting, was it Lloyd or Royd?
It was
the guy
one
who
of
was
those,
the
yeah.
fake. Yeah. So would you did they establish that he was like he also had the ability to copy the powers of the people he was impersonating?
No,
because I know his brother did with Kinpachi in that thing he referenced. He was like, yeah, he like took my form. I just had to be stronger than I was when he copied me. Yeah. So when he did that, does that mean he copied? Yamamoto was like fighting that version of Yuach 100%. Like would you say that that's a fair assessment?
No, because Lloyd, the one the one Yamamoto fought actually could only copy, I'm pretty sure, his like form and appearance perfectly. Hold on, let me see real quick, because only one of them had the ability to copy power. The other could copy appearance. Let's see.
I don't recall that.
Let me pull it up real quick for you.
Oh, dude, I just remembered. Fuck, we didn't talk about the My Hero or Jujutsu Kaisen chapters.
I mean, that's fine. It's a Bleach episode. I mean, yeah. If you want to edit, like, you want to talk about it, like in post, and then we just add it, I think that's fine.
You know how last week I was like, oh, they felt like short chapters? Like, dude, this week they were like short chapters.
No, yeah, they definitely felt a lot shorter.
The Jujutsu Kaisen one, I'm gonna be real with you. I guess this is gonna be like a very quick summary because I don't really have much to say about it. The Jujutsu Kaisen one might be the like Gege's first miss in a while. I think it was like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah. I think it was a cool chapter.
Like, but yeah, definitely not a 10 though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a 10, but I feel like it's built up to another 10 chapter for me. Like, to me, it comes off as like Megumi's about to have another solo chapter where he's doing his thing and like bullying, because he's like, yeah, now I can fight you without holding back. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of excited to see how that works. Yeah,
but this was definitely like it could have been rolled over into into a bigger chapter and have it not miss a beat as like the intro or like the first half.
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. So I guess those are like my quick thoughts. The My Hero Academia chapter is almost like not worth talking about because of how little happened.
Yeah, I don't like it though. I thought
it was so uneventful.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. It was not. I mean, not only was it uneventful, I think anything that did happen was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like the consequences of Aoyama being a traitor was very little.
I know. Okay, you too, right? Like, didn't that feel so weird? I was like, do you guys? These are cops. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like Deku's like, officer, can you like chill the fuck out? I'm having a moment here.
Yeah.
And like the officer complied. I'm like, you should be fired, man.
Yeah. And did you hear about My Hero ending in about a year?
Didn't he? Yeah, I read something like that. Didn't Horikoshi say that he expected it to like finish in a year or like conclude or
conclude?
It was something vague.
He said he expected the final arc to be done in a year, which is like kind of wild because that's only like 50 to 60 more chapters, and I cannot imagine like I almost said Bleach, My Hero ending that quickly in like in a satisfying way. It seems like there's so much more to be done.
Especially that seems really abrupt considering how Horikoshi likes to really take that shit slow, doesn't he?
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how the fuck he's gonna wrap up everything he's established in under 50 chapters.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I have a fun thought experiment for you before we get back into Bleach. Sure. I just thought of it. It's purely fun. Mm-hmm. So you have a super soldier serum. You're not allowed to take it, right? But you can choose who takes it under 2 conditions. 1, they have to be a mangaka.
Okay.
And 2, the effects of the serum is relative to that mangaka's current output. So let's say it was Togashi, for example. Mm-hmm. It would basically shorten the length of like his longest hiatus by like 3. So I don't know, divided by 3, right? But it wouldn't be the same output per like thing. You can't just like pick a guy and be like, yeah, 200 chapters every week, please. Right?
Okay.
It has to like scale to like their current output as like a normal person. So you could either divide by 3 times 10, whatever your method is. You get to decide that too.
So is it multiplied by like 3, like by 3 or divided by 3, like however long they take?
Yeah. So it's like, let's say a super soldier relative to a normal human is like 5 times stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So like either divide hiatuses by 5, so they need like less rest, or output by 5 if what you want is just like more of the content they make. If like hiatuses aren't like a thing, right? So you have the super soldier serum, you have the Mangka, you have the rules established. Who do you pick? And for those of you at home, tell us who you'd pick in the comments.
That's interesting. I might honestly pick either Yusuke Murata or Akutami.
Dude, me too.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Akutami is obvious because obviously more JJK, whatever. But Yusuke Murata
Yeah,
is because he's been putting out bangers for One Punch Man this year, and if he puts
dude,
out like,
yes,
that'd be like
yes.
how many what does he post, or like how many often does he put out chapters, like
I
once or
think
twice a month?
Yeah, that's all. Like, if he's working like consistently, dude.
Yeah.
That is literally my answer. I thought like that'd be like a big dude. Nice, you and me are on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay, dude. I have been on a One Punch Man like rewatch. I've been like rewatching the anime, rereading the manga and the web comic. Like, I'm a fucking. For those of you who don't know, because I keep mentioning it on this podcast, but never on my YouTube channel. I am like, One Punch Man is my favorite series. Like, period. Right. Like, I fucking love One Punch Man, and it's actually the only manga to this day that I've ever physically collected. I've never even collected Hunter x Hunter manga chapters like physically.
Oh,
I fucking love One Punch Man. Yeah, so I've been on a tear this weekend. I've just been like rereading it because I just love it so much, and that's why that's what prompted me to ask this question, because I was like, have you seen Murata's art?
Yeah, I mean, Murata is definitely, to me, he's the best.
Unreal.
He's the best manga artist there's ever been, from me.
Easily, and his skill with like drawing it's inhuman is the best way I could describe it. It literally does not feel like a human being drew this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially the recent chapters, like, oh my god, dude, when he drew God, like
that was
the One Punch Man, yeah, and then when at the very last panel of the most recent chapter with the eyeballs coming out of the ocean, oh my god, that looked like it was a photo.
Yeah, it's Murata is wild in terms of his art. So like, if he puts out like 5 to 10 chapters a month, like yeah. That's gonna be
a month. I fucking wish he could put out 4 chapters a month. Are you kidding me? So yeah, well, you'd give him the serum?
Yeah, I probably.
Now, what do you think the ratio would be? Like, if I'm gonna be super generous and say he puts out about 14 chapters in a year.
Okay.
They're good. They're of good length, by the way.
Yeah,
so I'm not too mad about the number. Yeah. So 14 chapters in a year. That's like currently, right? Mm-hmm. Post Serum, what do you think it would be at?
So just it would just be 14 times 5. Is that what it'd be? Or
you can pick the number, like like reasonably. I can't believe I'm gonna say the sentence. If you were to power scale a super soldier serum Murata to like current Murata, right? Like, what if like. Right, like based on the amount of output that his current skill like requires him to do, like he needs to eat like 2,000 calories or something crazy along those lines to like do what he needs to do, 8 hours of sleep. What do you think? Like, how do you think the serum would affect his output while still retaining the quality?
He's probably,
it has to be reasonable.
Probably putting out like, I'm guessing he's probably going on like probably like a weekly schedule, as if he was like a normal Shonen Jump author. So not like any more than like every, like, he probably released, to me at least, what I think is on a similar schedule to like Horikoshi, Akutame, Tabata, that type of stuff.
Yeah, dude, that is like the dream situation.
Like very explosive, and even that's clearly like super soldier type thing.
Yeah, dude, that is the correct answer. I'm genuinely flabbergasted, amazed, and be real. Little turned on that you guessed correctly. There was a right answer. Mm-hmm. So you know, I'm just happy you and I are on the same page, at least with something.
Yeah. I think he's.
And if you are a massage therapist or like the Japanese government, he's the guy. He's the one. Please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Bleach. Just wanted to like throw that fun hypothetical out there.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a pretty interesting hypothetical.
So go on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you were talking about like Lloyd and Royd, right?
Yeah. So you wanted to pull up an example of them copying powers.
So, here you go. So the one Kenpachi fought was Lloyd, right? The one Yamamoto fought was Royd, and he can mimic another's memories in the mind, but not their like actual, like, you know, whatever, right?
Oh, so doesn't that mean Yamamoto's even weaker, considering he wasn't even fighting a guy that copied Uachi's powers?
I mean, even weaker is relative, because Yamamoto is still the strongest captain by far to that. Like,
let's have this conversation here.
Sure.
Where would you put Yamamoto? power-wise.
Like by the end of the series.
Sure.
I mean, he's got to be top 10 easy. Like maybe you can say his abilities don't match up well with some of like the Stern Ritter or like the Schutzstaffel, right? Because like, but if we're talking like battle power, like I can hurt you, I'm fast, I'm strong, right? And not including hacks, he's definitely top 10, maybe top 5. Top 5 might be stretching it, but top 10 for sure. And I don't think that's very debatable because I think it goes Prime Soul King probably, but if you don't want to count him, then number 1's Yuha.
No. Yeah.
Number 2's like Aizen.
Okay.
Number 3's
So,
Ichigo. Like,
I'm really glad we arrived at this topic because I have a very, very important thing that I need you to like react to with me. All right. So what we have here is a CBR article. BR, are you familiar with CBR.com?
I think I gotta say, I think I've run into them a couple of times. Maybe.
They made this list called Top 10 Strongest Bleach Characters at the end of the series. I want you to like go down this list with me.
Okay.
Now, there is a joke. There is like a meme with this list. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want to see if you can get it for yourself. But if you do get it, I want you to hold off calling it until we get to the end of the list.
Okay.
Right? But if you notice what's wrong with it, just say, hey, I think I figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this
but
is
don't say what it actually is.
And this is counting the Manga, like
This is
all
every
the way
week.
up. Okay.
This-
all the way
yes,
up to,
yes.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's start with number 10.
Toshiro.
Toshiro Hitsugaya.
I'll say this is not a horrendous take. Toshiro is very strong.
Yeah, and he definitely proved, at least in his adult form, that he can contend with somebody like Gerard Valkyrie.
Yeah. So yeah,
Right.
not bad. Kisuke,
Also not bad.
but not horrible. Like
Yeah.
above Toshiro's questionable, but like it could be. You can do worse. So I'll reserve like final judgments until like we start seeing some really bad stuff.
All right. Number 8 is Lille Barro.
Lille Barro. Okay.
I disagree at number 8.
Okay.
Definitely top 5 material.
You think he's top 5 in terms of okay?
Because short of like they needed hacks to beat him.
That's true, but okay. Well, I guess we can kind of talk. Okay. All right. Let's see.
All right.
Goddard.
Number 7 is Gerard Valkyrie.
I think Goddard's he's really
He is
strong.
He's like top 4, like top 3, because like they never beat him.
Yeah.
They
it was
never
just
beat him.
It was just the Ashwaulan, whatever.
Yeah. Number 6.
Kenpachi should not be above Gerard.
Exactly, and he definitely shouldn't be higher.
Toshiro,
Honestly,
Toshiro
yeah.
Toshiro, like manga to, and I can't speak for like light novels, but manga to manga, Toshiro would bully this Kenpachi.
I actually agree with you because I think this version of Kenpachi, when he just learned Bankai, is not his strongest form because his body is just not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Hitsugai's like sheer skill and experience in using his Bankai does momentarily outweigh Kenpachi's current level of expertise as he stands right now. However, assuming Kenpachi has trained the last 12 years or so, I can't imagine him not having surpassed Hitsugaya at this moment in time.
No,
assuming he's trained the last 12 years.
He probably has, but based off 1,000-year Blood War feats, Toshiro would kind of beat him up bad. I think
like he can reasonably stop him, but I definitely think Kenpachi's he has the potential to be like top 3. All right, number 5 is Aizen.
Sure.
Really, I disagree. I think he's the 3rd strongest person in the series.
Okay, so we're talking strength or like who wins?
Both. They kind of go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, but they are so for example, Ichigo is stronger than Goddard, but I don't know if Ichigo can kill Goddard, which is why I'm like, okay, which one are we talking? Are we talking Reiatsu / strength and are we talking stats? Or are we talking about these two characters are going at it, who wins? Because that includes stats, right? But it's not limited to that as well. It's limited to it encompasses hacks and things like that.
The way I define these rankings to myself is raw power and what percentage of them versus X do they come out on top. Okay. So for Aizen, it's Aizen versus X is about 99% to 98%, right? So that's why I put him so high. And honestly, I think it's a reasonable argument to put him above Gerard Valkyrie because they're both technically immortal. So a battle with them would be eternal.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so next is Ichibe.
Ichibe's weird.
Yeah,
Aizen probably beats him though.
Yeah, I think so too, because I don't know how Ichibe handles something like the Hogyoku existing, because does his name affect Aizen independent of the Hogyoku or vice versa. Aizen's like mutated biologically, right? Like he's like a different creature than he was. It's not like the Hogyoku is like conditional, like his form, his current form or his current body isn't conditional on the Hogyoku for survival necessarily. It's kind of there as a part of him and can probably make him stronger if he ever, you know, gets to that point again. So I don't see Ichibe going quietly, but I don't see him completely dominating Aizen. Yeah, I put it at like 60-40 Aizen's way.
Okay, that's fair.
What do you think?
I mean, I think Aizen would pretty solidly beat Ichibe.
What's your ratio?
I mean, I don't necessarily have a ratio to it, but I think it's like Aizen might have some difficulty depending on how seriously he takes the fight. If we're counting like Aizen in character, he might mess around too much and kind of get messed up if he gets splattered with the ink. But I think if Aizen like takes it seriously, it's just Kyoko Suigetsu, and then he can just kind of like kill Ichibe when he's not aware of everything that's going on.
So you think it's a matter of who draws their Zanpakuto first?
I think, well, Aizen is his Zanpakuto now, so I just think...
I meant like the ability of
yeah. Honestly, I don't think it's about that. I think if Aizen takes it seriously, he wins relatively easily. If he doesn't, it's a drawn-out fight until he takes it seriously. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, better question before we move on to number 3. Do you think Ichibe can cancel out Aizen's immortality?
I'd have to reread his fight with Yuha, to be honest, in order to remember like how his abilities work particularly.
So the way he cuts names, right? So for example, he does this thing where he cuts the name of something in half to like half its power.
Yeah.
So I wonder, would you consider Aizen's immortality part of his power?
Yeah, but I don't know how you cut immortality in half. I don't know what that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm confused about too. So it really depends on how Kubo would handle cutting Aizen's immortality. Because if he can cut Aizen's immortality in half and he just makes him have like regenerative abilities, but he isn't immortal, then I definitely think Ichibe stands like a much better chance.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you interpret like how Ichibe's powers interact with him.
Yeah, like Ichibe and Lille Barro are like the only, and Gerard, maybe not Gerard to the same extent, but like they're the only creatures that I could ever see Aizen having like a serious problem with.
I think Aizen beats him pretty well. He doesn't. It's weird. He doesn't kill him, I guess, but he beats him. Yeah. Like he doesn't really lose.
But how, right? Because like, is Aizen still a transcendent being? Like, has he reached the level of like Lille Barro's weird bird owl form where he's able to like harm him, or does he still like fall under that category of like not being in the same playing field as Lille Barro? And then
so wait, let me see. You don't have to remember what chapter Lille Barro's fight is, right? Because I don't really like. I know he's strong. No. I know like generally he's like intangible, blah blah blah. But I don't remember like the specifics of his abilities. Let me find that real quick while we're talking about this. Depending on how Lille Barro's abilities work, it may change.
I know, but his powers aren't really... They aren't the thing that makes him hard to beat, necessarily, because after the sniper rifle thing, the main problem just happened to be damaging him. Because he was like, oh, I can only be damaged by a weapon of, like, the gods or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Realistically, right? Like, how far off would you consider Aizen from, like, fitting that description? Because for all I know, Lille Barro, he wasn't stated to be an aspect of the Soul King, yeah?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's God. Like, that's the God in Bleach. So Lille Barro is definitely not even at the Soul King like level. He's not a part of the Soul King, but he's not so weak that he's like on the same level as like everybody else, because he was able to come back and evolve from an attack from Shunsuke's Bankai. So he's like somewhere in the middle, which is actually funny enough where I would put Aizen. I'd put him at that level too, because he isn't an aspect of the Soul King, but he's like beyond Soul Reapers.
Yes, I think, but I think in terms of like, he's not an aspect of the Soul King, but I definitely think he's above like Lille Barro in terms of like how. I think the only problem Aizen doesn't get touched. I don't think. I mean, because he just activates Kyoko Suigetsu, right? And then Lille Barro is shooting at nothing. The only problem is I don't know how he kills him, and I need to look back at that real quick.
That's why this matchup is just so fascinating to me. And it's I don't know if you remember, but me and Doofy talked about it during our intermission when we shot that episode of the podcast, right? And to this day, it is still like the most fascinating Bleach matchup to me because of just how bizarre Kubo wrote Lille Barro to be. Let's just say the Lille Barro Aizen fight is a toss-up for right now, and then we can get into like a full debate later on. But it's a fun thing to think about, right? Okay, so number 4 is Ichibe. I don't mind too much. It's in the top 5. I think he's definitely powerful enough to justify it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not mad at the take. I'd have to sit down and think about it a little bit more and be like, okay, this character versus this character, blah blah blah. But I don't think it's a bad take. So.
All right, so let's move on to number 3.
Uryuu, that's a horrible take.
I know. This is like, this is peak CBR if I've ever seen it, dude. Because let's just read their explanation. If actions are what denotes power in Bleach's universe, do you agree with that take? Is this like your metric for power?
Feats, you mean? Like feats of power? Yeah, feats of power are statements that are like data book statements or statements of power from other characters.
Yes. So then Ishida's last-minute attack to dispel Yuach's powers is roughly one of the most monumental actions ever taken. It
ignores context, so I don't even really
It ignores so much context. The fact that he just like didn't casually do that, he needed to get the silver thing that was implanted in his mom's heart after the Eshwalin happened to her. Like, there's so many layers.
It's also like useless because it works on exclusively like Quincy.
Exclusively Yuach.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's one of the most powerful Quincy of all time, with this ability to reverse time between 2 points of his choice being a definite highlight in his massive arsenal of powers. He used it once, and it wasn't on Yuach. And that's why this bugs me. Because let's say he managed to, like, undo Yuach's powers or something crazy like that, right? Mm-hmm. I can sort of see this this placement being justified. But he never did. That's not how he, like, damaged Yuach. And he was losing to Hashwalth, by the way. The only reason Hashwalth, like, died was because of the Eshwalin again.
And I think, like, even if you say, like, Antithesis is, like, this catch-all thing for victory, all of these characters, like most of the characters that they've shown on the list, can quite literally one-shot him, so that's an irrelevant ability. Like, he has to sustain the damage, right, in order for it to be used in that function. Ichigo rips through him with his sword. Aizen does the same thing. Ichibe does the same thing. Like, most of these characters would kill him in a way that, like, the Antithesis simply isn't worth anything.
Just take Aizen, for example. Even if the damage was sufficient enough to kill him, it would be undone in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And you know how I know that? Because with Hashwalth, who wasn't Aizen, it basically was. He just transferred all the damage that Ishida put on him into his fucking shield.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it has to be a survivable amount of damage, right? Or because if it's not, he'll die, right?
Exactly.
So if you give somebody a survivable amount of damage and you're someone with regen like Aizen, it doesn't matter.
And especially if like you're on the weaker end of this like relative scale, like if you're barely able to contain all these injuries and you're fighting somebody who's like even marginally stronger than you, they're not going to be at the same scale of like impeding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Terrible take from CBR. All right, now let's get on to number 2. Ichigo.
He's definitely not 2. He's strong, but he's not 2. Because Ichigo's abilities are very, very meathead, dumb level, right?
Do you fall into the camp of Yuach stole his Quincy powers? Or do you fall into the camp of when Tsukishima stabbed his blade in Ichigo, he restored it?
I mean, I thought he restored all of Ichigo's powers when he used Book of the End. That's how I interpreted it.
But then when Yuach was hit with Ishida's arrow, it only stopped the Almighty, and the absorption happened during Ichigo's like strike on Yuach in that moment, and that's when it transferred from his Bankai all the way back to like classic Zangetsu.
Gotcha.
So at that point, Tsukishima had already done his thing. So do you think Ichigo no longer has his Quincy powers?
I mean, it's possible. I just don't think his Quincy powers contribute much to his overall strength.
Well, we don't know because he was never able to use his Bankai post Zangetsu Awakening.
Well, I mean,
also,
I
really love the dual blade.
Yeah, it's super cool. But what Quincy powers do you think he shows off in a fight? Because like I only think it's like Blute Vein, really.
Yeah. So yes, Blute Vein, but I meant more so the fact that he was able to have that white streak on his Bankai. I don't know like what it does, right? Because Yuach cut it off, so Ichigo couldn't use it, obviously. So I could only speculate on how powerful it could have been. But if Almighty Yuach was like, yeah, it would have presented a problem, then, obviously it would have been a problem. So I don't know if he still has it, because in the Hell arc, he isn't shown, he's still shown to be using classic Zangetsu.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see when it happens, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so for right now, I think 2 is a fair place to put Ichigo if he lost his Quincy powers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now number 1 is Yuach. Now, I don't think this is like too bad considering how powerful he was by the end of the series.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten to the end of the list, have you noticed yet, Ronin? Have you noticed what's wrong with this list?
No Yamamoto, maybe?
Yes, sir. You guessed it right. Yamamoto is nowhere on this list.
Yeah.
When did you realize?
I mean, I realized when he wasn't like at 8, I was like, okay, yeah. If there's probably no way they're gonna put him much higher than 8, considering how early in the war he gets taken out.
But yes, Yamamoto doesn't even crack the top 10 according to CVR.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I don't see how Uryuu's on here and Yamamoto isn't, so...
At 3. He's at 3.
Yeah, no.
By the way, just this transition from 4 to 3 is hilarious. You get Ichibe, and then you scroll, and it's fucking Uryuu.
Yeah.
Dude.
Uryuu's not like a pushover, but he's not top 3 in the verse. Like,
he's not even top 6. He's not even...
I don't think
he's not even top 10.
No, he's not top 10.
Honestly, if I were to make my own top 10 list right now, and please feel free to join me. For me, I would put Yuwatch at number 1, Ichigo at number 2, Aizen at number 3. Number 4 is where number 2 is Ichigo. Number 3 is Aizen.
Ichigo over Aizen? Interesting.
I'll put it to you this way: I don't know what the deal is with Aizen's powers, despite the butterfly form being gone, because he's stated to be stronger, right? And obviously, the only matchup he's had is with Yuwatch, so you can't really assess it beyond that point. But he and Ichigo, they were going back and forth, so I think 2 and 3 is a decent chunk of like they can definitely go back and forth between these two levels. I think that's a fair assessment to both of them. Yeah,
I think they're relative, but I just think Aizen's abilities just make Ichigo lose badly. Like I'd argue in terms of Reiatsu, speed, strength. Yeah, you can definitely say, okay, these characters are relative, but then you incorporate, like, what does Ichigo have? Kizuga Tenshos, and then Aizen has, you look at me, you are now under my illusion forever. Like, okay.
I know, but Ichigo does never had that weakness with Aizen.
No, Aizen's never used it on him, but Aizen in fact states, "I'm glad I never used it on you, so we could coordinate our attacks." Like, Aizen just chose not to, right? Which is like a big plot point in the.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just forgot about that. Man, what a weird thing for him to do. Whatever, but yeah, I'd put, like, obviously, like, it's relative to me at least. So I think Ichigo being a number 2 in terms of raw power, right? Because I think the only reason you'd be making this argument is because of Aizen's immortality getting in the way. Like, if Aizen didn't have his immortality and he and Ichigo, like, went at it, I think Ichigo would come out on top at least, like, 55% of the time.
I think even if you remove his immortality in Regen, Aizen wins just because Kyoko's we get to. Like, if you argue, like, he decided, like, it's either die or use it. He's gonna use it and then beat him. And what is Ichigo gonna do, right? He doesn't know where Aizen is. Aizen now just gets, like, 3 attacks all over. I just don't see how Ichigo surpasses that or deals with that.
Well, if that ever happened, Kubo will give him a new ability.
Sure.
All right, but yeah, so just to recap so far, 1 is Yuwatch, 2 is Ichigo, 3 is Aizen. Now 4, I would actually keep Ichibe.
Sure.
Now 5 is, I think, where it might get a little controversial, and that's where I put Zaraki.
You put Kenpachi there?
Yes. The main reason why is because he was able to cut Gerard Valkyrie in half in his Bankai form, and the fact that he had more power to spare, but it's just the fact that his body couldn't handle it because it was obviously so brand new, leaves a lot for me in terms of, like, his upper potential that I want to say that, like, Kenpachi, as he probably is right now, as of the House of Hell arc, is a solid 5. Where like, people to the left or right of Kenpachi, 6 downward, are weaker than him, but everybody above him is, like, inhuman. Like Ichibe, like, claps Kenpachi.
Yeah, but I just don't think... I guess if we speculate that he's gotten stronger, which he most likely has, sure, but I'm just going off of, like, where the manga ends off. I think Toshiro would be... I don't even think Toshiro would necessarily be number 5, but he should definitely be at least 1 spot above Kenpachi.
Actually, fuck, no. I'd switch Zaraki and Yamamoto. That's what I do. So Yamamoto would be number 5, and then Zaraki would be number 6, because I just remembered how insane Yamamoto's Bankai is, right? And there's two versions of this, right? I'd actually beef Yamamoto to 4 if he had his other arm still intact, but because he's one-armed, and he was still that powerful, I'd put him at number 5.
Gotcha.
Because like in Bleach, dude, when you lose an arm, you like lose half your power.
For sure. Yeah, that is quite a bit of power loss.
Yeah, and especially if you're like a what was it? What's the art called? Kendo?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
where
yeah.
like you
like double your strength by holding it your sword with two hands. Yeah.
Yeah. And Yamamoto was like an expert in that. So yeah. So Zaraki would be number 6. And then number 7, I would actually keep Gerard Valkyrie.
Okay.
Like, I can't imagine anybody in the series beating this guy. I'll be real. Like, he has, I think, a better version of immortality than Aizen does. Because this guy is just, he's invincible. Short of you watch and the Soul King, he is literally invincible.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say it's better. They seem to have very similar levels of immortality because Aizen evolves when he gets beat up too. So
I might keep Lil Barro at 8 just because his form was basically, invincible minus hacks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's fair to keep him at 8. So 9 and 10 is where Hitsugaya number 9,
mm-hmm.
or maybe Byakuya. I don't know. I go back and forth because for me, the problem that I have with Hitsugaya is that this isn't his normal like base form. This is like super conditional, like Bankai exhausted Hitsugaya. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I go by the statement Shunsui made in regards to Hitsugaya, where he's like, yeah, in 100 years he'll surpass me, and it's only been 12. So I personally think he's about 12% of the way to surpass Shunsui.
Interesting.
Which isn't enough. So number 9, actually, I'll put Byakuya. For now, I'll leave it at Byakuya. So to recap quickly, Byakuya is number 10. Shunsui is number 9. Lil Barro is number 8. Gerard Valkyrie is number 7. Zaraki would be number 6. Yamamoto is number 5. Ichibe is number 4. Aizen is number 3. Ichigo is number 2. And then Yuachi is number 1.
Got you. Okay.
Your turn?
I'm still ranking. Let's see. So far I have 1 through 7. 1, I got Yuha. 2, I have Aizen. 3, and this is in terms of not raw power. This is in terms of like, I think the person above them beats everyone below them, like in a 1v1 or whatever. So Yuha, Aizen, Gerard, Ichigo, Ichibe, Yamamoto, and Kenpachi.
You'd put Gerard above Ichigo.
Ichigo's not killing Gerard, I don't think. So yeah.
What? How many times would Ichigo need to kill Gerard before it becomes too much for him to handle?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Gerard just takes the damage that was accrued by that person and then gets gets to that size based off how much damage he takes. So like if Ichigo disintegrates him or whatever with the Gezuga Tensho, then I'm pretty sure he would just grow bigger than he ever did against Byakuya, Toshiro, and Kenpachi, and then just be stronger.
Yeah, but I'd say like it would take Ichigo like 30 to 50 kills consistently of like his entire body to like overwhelm him.
I mean, even if it does, it would just be a long battle. But I still think Gerard in the end would win.
Just by sheer like evolution. Yeah, okay.
Ichigo is number 4, Ichibe is number 5, Yamamoto is number 6, number 7 is Kenpachi. Let's see. And I'm trying to think of characters I have after that.
Would you keep Lil Barro in the top 10?
I don't know. I have to read up on Lil Barro's abilities again. Like I just don't remember his fight with Shunsui very well. Number 8. Let's see. Wait, if I'm putting Kenpachi on here, never mind. Number 7 would go to adult Toshiro, and then number 8 would go to Kenpachi. Number 9. Man, I'm having a lot of trouble like figuring out how these characters rank. Okay, let me ask you this: why do you have Byakuya so high? Because I may be forgetting something that he does.
Okay, so I'm kind of back and forth with Byakuya and Hitsugaya, but the reason why I have Byakuya slightly above him is that Hitsugaya has taken so many L's, it's almost a meme, and Byakuya has taken 1 L that he then basically made up for by not even rematching the guy, but by becoming so powerful that it wasn't worth the rematch. And then he like used his second form Bankai to obliterate Gerard Valkyrie's head after like 12 or 13 evolutions after Zaraki's Bankai. The fact that Toshiro in his adult form was able to instantly freeze Gerard Valkyrie is pretty cool, but Valkyrie kind of broke out of it rather instantaneously. And it slowed him down-ish enough for Byakuya to use his Bankai to like mutilate his head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My biggest problem with Hitsugaya's powers are that you can feel, and this is good writing on Kubo's part, I'll admit, you can feel how much being a child like cripples his own power because of A, his inexperience and like refinement in, you know, using it, and B, in just that his biggest limiter is his own body, and that's why he needs to be an adult to use like the ultimate version of his Bankai.
Yeah.
So so that was my thought process for putting Byakuya over Hitsugaya.
See, I don't know why I am so stuck on these number 9 and 10 spot. And I feel like I'm probably like forgetting like some obvious character. I guess I'll put Lille Barro. He's pretty strong. He's hard to kill. And then for number 10, I'll just say Kisuke. This probably is nebulous to change, but putting him there just because I can't think of anybody else that I'd put.
Okay, so why Kisuke over Byakuya?
Byakuya's like only like feat is like attacking a Gerard when like he's set up for like while Byakuya is like charging up this attack in the background, like while Toshiro and Kenpachi were fighting. I just don't think he pulls it off in the middle of a fight like normal. Because if he could, I don't think Kenpachi would have even been needed in the first place.
I don't know, man. I'm more curious about your justification for Urahara than I am like why not Byakuya. Like, is it his Bankai? Is it like his entire arsenal? Because if it's his entire arsenal, right? Wouldn't you say that Mayuri is like comparable, and he's technically got more battle experience?
Mayuri might be comparable in terms of like intelligence or whatever, but I just don't think he fights as strong as a shoot Stoffel. I think Askin is stronger than Pernida. And then,
really?
Yeah. I think Askin's one of the stronger like shoot Stoffel.
No, but Pernida is like a much more irritating opponent. He's kind of like what's his name? Black Sperm from One Punch Man. Do you remember that fight? The sheer level of hacks it took to kill Pernida was like insane.
I mean, I agree, but like if you hit Askin once, right, and you don't kill him, he just adapts to your spiritual pressure. You can't kill him anymore. Which is like to me big. It's a bigger issue than most characters in Bleach can say. Like,
for example, him fighting Kenpachi at the beginning before he fought Mayuri necessitated Kenpachi tearing off his own arm.
That's a Kenpachi who still had his eye patch on though, which is fine. It's just a nerfed Kenpachi.
I know, but that was a nerve thing. Like it doesn't matter how strong he would have been, you know.
I mean, it would because it's about spiritual. Like all their abilities are relying on spiritual pressure. So affecting like the fact that Kenpachi could react to the spread of his ability while being nerfed. To me, it shows like a little bit of a power difference. Also, I think you look at him like kind of like base to base before they get like their powers back or whatever from Yuha. You remember when they went up to the Soul Palace and then were doing their thing or whatever? Askin is the only one who was able to like react to I can't remember his name. The guy with like the sword that was too sharp or whatever.
Omida.
Yeah, he was the only one to like. All the other shoot stuff got one shot and blitzed, right? But Askin was able to like actually react and dodge a lethal attack from him, right? And then get off his own attack at like simultaneously or whatever. And he would have actually beat him if there wasn't like interference from other people. All the other ones got bullied, and I'm thinking if they all, you know, if Yuha gives them equal amounts of power, which I'm not assuming there's a reason to give them equal amounts of power,
But Gerard and Pernida were the only ones that he didn't give power to. Their powers were already their own.
No, all of their powers were their own. But Yuha was granting them back to him. Like Lille Barro got his powers back, or like that's why right after Yuha gives them their abilities back, Lille Barro like one shots the rest of them.
I didn't think, you know, it's so weird. The top three are like relatively easy, but when you get down to like the middle and then the bottom, it's like hard.
Yeah,
to scale some of these characters.
I think Bleach gets very complex with attacks, so it kind of like have to either argue that like characters have a big enough gap where they're like spiritual pressure neg their opponents, so their hacks don't matter. But if they're relative, you can get into a very strange like hacked and intelligence battle. Hard to like determine one character over another. And honestly, just threw Kisuke in there because I mean, probably Askin would be a better fit than Kisuke, to be honest. I guess.
No, but Kisuke, like, he bullied him, though.
I mean, he bullied him with Grimjoww's help, I guess, but...
Alright, whoa. Like, Grimjoww, like, capitalized on all of Kisuke's absurd hard work, and it was still Kisuke's plan And even after all of that, he still had enough foresight to recruit Nell. Yeah, I still think it falls under the umbrella of Urahara as like an opponent.
I mean, if you say that, like if you say like Urahara gets like other people for his plans, then sure, but it's no longer a 1v1. That's like, I think if you still give Urahara his intelligence, but take away his ability to use Grimjoww and Nell, he loses.
Okay, but do you still retain his other arsenal of like body doubles and everything else?
For sure, I think he has a pretty good arsenal, but I don't know how relevant that is with like if you just say that like, you know, okay, yeah, now Askin got hit with his spiritual pressure, now he can't.
Ooh, hold on. So if you were to put Mayuri in this, like if you were to do this list with Mayuri, right, and he was like in your number 10, would you like allow him to have Nemu? Because that's technically like part of his arsenal.
Yeah, that's some. Yeah, I mean that's standard equipment for Mayuri. That's something he brings into every fight.
But like she's technically another person, right? And okay, better example. Would you let Mayuri use his zombies?
And I wouldn't care. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think they add all that much to his arsenal. Like, I mean, normally, like if you were to say, yeah, does Mayuri normally have them? No. Nemu, yeah, because there's not a single fight where he doesn't have her on standby. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are several fights in the series, even after he displays that he has zombies, where he, like versus Pernida, he doesn't use them, right? Even though he should have access to them. It's just not standard equipment for him. Like to me, Nemu is like akin to a Zanpakuto for like Bleach characters. Like, are they their own beings that have like sentience? Sure, but they're also things that are used in every battle that they're in, anyways. So I'd consider like her standard equipment.
But you don't think like Byakuya could have taken on Askin?
No. Because I don't think Byakuya, like, unless Byakuya uses his like ultimate move, Senbon Soccer or whatever he says, right, and kills him in one shot, he loses. As soon as he hits him one time and doesn't kill him, Askin now just bullies him the rest of the fight.
Yeah, you know, no, I can get it with Kisuke. Because you know what my line of thinking is? If Kisuke was the one that had the master plan instead of Aizen, I definitely think he'd be the Soul King right now.
I mean, sure. But I think the only reason Aizen isn't the Soul King is because he didn't, that's not what he truly desired, I guess. Like, the only reason he lost is because he didn't want to, that's not really what the Hogaku saw deep in what he truly wanted.
I don't know, man. Like I said before at the beginning of the podcast, I like your interpretation, but it's just not what was stated in the story, so I can't adopt it. You know what I mean?
Well, like, what about it is not like
Ichigo explicitly said that it was a symptom of Aizen's strength, not his ambition.
Yeah, but I mean, like, one, the wait, what are you talking about? The loneliness from
the loneliness from the blade thing.
Yeah, okay. I don't necessarily. I mean, I think you can, if you take it to its most literal extreme, you can say he's talking about like physical strength. But I think Kubo tends to not be so straightforward with like the way he writes things. I don't think Ichigo is necessarily meaning like, you know, because Aizen is definitively stronger than everybody else in terms of like raw power. He's like, you know, this whatever, right? Or he's lonely. I think it's kind of cumulative of Aizen's traits that make him strong, if that makes sense. Because personally, I think strength without ambition is not. It's not really like if you have potential without ambition, you can't be strong, right? If you have intelligence without ambition, you can't be like, or if you have I guess like a mental potential without ambition to learn and grow and do whatever and use it, you're not very intelligent. But I think if you lack those two things and only have ambition, all you are is an ambitious loser, right? And Aizen was just a composite of those three things in a way that really surpassed most other people. And honestly, the only reason Kisuke was like Kisuke's super smart, right? But Kisuke was like, he did lose in a mental battle with Aizen before, and I think that's what led Kisuke becoming even more intelligent. He lost that trusting, super kind nature he has. That Aizen kind of like away from him when he made him out to be like this betrayer of the Soul Society. Because I think Aizen already makes it clear that like he's not being literal, right? Because one, he's the one who had the ability to transcend like hollows and Shinigami, clearly showing he's not the same as everybody else. Whatever, even if we ignore that, right? And Aizen's like, he's like he's we know that Aizen's problem is not just people aren't intelligent, because he's like, when he's talking to Kisa, he's like, with a mind as brilliant as yours, why do you accept the status quo? How can you keep obeying the Soul King, right? Like, he's like, do you have the logic of a loser, right? He's like, the difference between Aizen and Kisuke is because Kisuke is like content with where he is and how the world is. Aizen is not, right? And Aizen has at least the self-perceived strength to impose his own ideology on the world rather than accept the ideology the world has imposed on him. So I think maybe you could look at it as a form of like mental strength. The strength doesn't have to be a literal my Reiatsu like bullies yours type of deal. I think Bleach is a little bit more poetic than that, than just being like super duper straightforward all the time.
I still come out the other side loving Aizen as a character, but I love the motivation of I just seek to destroy all others who control me. Because like to me, like that's the hard line, right? Like that's like my favorite Aizen moment right there. And that's like a motivation that I could definitely get behind. It resonates with me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to me, I'm like, well, this reason is way more than sufficient, right? You don't need this thing of he's so strong, it's lonely.
Well, here's the thing. I just looked at the panel where he was talking about it. He never says he's lonely because he's so strong. It's like he's lonely. He's born with exceptional powers, and he wanted somebody else who had similar worldviews to him, right? Of like, the world should be changed because of our strength. So maybe you could say Kenpachi is stronger, right? Or has more potential. Or Yamamoto is stronger. Or Kisuke is smarter. But they don't share his perspective on the world of like desiring to change because they have the ability to, and therefore he's lonely because nobody understood him. Even though they shared similar powers, they didn't share the thing that was most important to Aizen, maybe. Which is why I think that's why Aizen's always talking about like how gods are like these things created by others. How like, you know, talking about like the weakness of trust and things of that nature. Because he's never needed to do those things himself. And to him at least, the strong don't need either of those things. They don't need a god, because a god is something humans create out of weakness. And they don't need trust, because trust is born out of an inability to do everything on your own. And I think that those things stem from Aizen being unable to rely on anybody else to share his worldview, to rely on in terms of strength, to rely on in terms of intelligence. Like, he is, like, on a general level, one of the most perfect, like, Shinigami from the perspective of, like, you know, danger levels or whatever. Like, there's just not very many people who can stand toe to toe with him as a person, right? And I think that may get lonely, and that's how I interpreted it. But I don't think it's so, like, Ichigo says it so bluntly, where you can be like, oh, he's talking about, you know, his raw destructive capacity or something like that.
Yeah, so I love Aizen. He's probably my favorite Bleach character. So, like, I need to, like, be ultra specific about that. Like I'm not saying that I did, this makes me dislike Aizen more. I'm just saying I see it as, like, an inconsistency in how it was written for his motivation when you compare it to something like, when you take a look around the world, it doesn't match up, at least from my perspective. That's just how I meant it.
I got you.
All right, so I think that's like the end of, hopefully, I don't know about you, but like the first Bleach video podcast episode.
For sure.
This was definitely fun. I don't think we even scratched the surface of what you and I can talk about with Bleach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta ghost everybody, bro. I'm on my Sigma grind set. I can't talk to people right now.
Bro, you know, you joke, but I'm genuinely curious how it's going, because for those of you, we never actually announced it. So next week is gonna be our New Year's like year in review episode, where Ronin and I are gonna talk about, you know, our year so far, 2021, what we liked, what we didn't like, milestones we wish we could have hit, etc., and more or less our New Year's resolutions. So I guess this will be like a teaser for next episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like, generally speaking, how's that been going? I know you've been like trying to stock up on videos and TikToks and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been running into like a mental like block or whatever. I mentioned it like a few weeks back, but I think The problem is I don't let myself just take a step back. I'm kind of brute forcing it right now. I'm not feeling the creative juices. So I just keep turning the key in the ignition, hoping for something else to start. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely stocking up on scripts, doing that type of stuff, but I gotta kick it into maximum overdrive soon, so I can have videos for the first month at least, TikTok and YouTube wise. You know. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best. That's all I can really say, honestly.
Huh. How is the short form stuff going? Because that's like super interesting to me.
So it kind of depends. So like I script, even though they're very short videos, I script like whatever videos if I'm talking about something, or sometimes I'll cut it out. But the scripting process is so unbelievably easy. The recording, it's honestly, it's super easy for me. Like making that type of stuff is easy. The only problem is doing that and making normal length videos. So the problem is doing both. It's not so much that making the short form content is hard. It's how do I make the short form content and the regular content on the channel both at like a consistent rate? Because my goal is to post at least, one TikTok a day, just start out, because I don't know how hard it's going to be to keep going. So like one a day, right? And video wise, I want to go to like
but you're stacking up, no?
Yeah,
you
I
should
am.
be, yeah.
I am stacking
Because
up.
I don't know if you want to keep this part in, but I'm curious, have you given any thought to a schedule of sorts into the new year?
Yeah, I know the explained videos are still going to be a once a week thing. Those are still going to be every Sunday, which is fine. I can keep those up. And I'm thinking, I don't know what type of videos, but I'm thinking like Sundays and Wednesdays, honestly, because like that way, the explained videos do their thing for the first half of the week. Wednesday kind of bumps up, and then it holds them off until Sunday again, and I do that type of thing. But
are you still gonna have time for the podcast?
Yeah, I will.
Like, I don't mean that in like a guilt trippy way. I genuinely am curious.
Oh no,
like,
yeah. No, I will.
Because when we started this, like, it was very much like this cannot
interfere type
suck
thing.
from.
Yeah, no, for sure. My goal is, because one of the editors I really like going to is on like a break or whatever, because they have college stuff, So when they come back, my output will probably go back up again. But I'm starting to face the problem of bottlenecking. Like for the TikToks, right? I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that are just audio right now, and they're short. Opening up Premiere Pro to be like editing 10 different videos just makes me like nauseous. I'm like, dude, I do not want to do this right now.
God, you do them at once? Gross.
Yeah, I mean, when I script multiple videos at once. When I record multiple at once, and then when I edit multiple at once. Not at once, but like back to back to back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna be like, how do you even feel like you're doing anything?
Yeah, nah. I just go like, okay, this video's done, try not to throw up, now open up Premiere Pro for a new project or whatever. So
see, I don't know how you do it. The second I'm like done with a project, I don't I actually force myself to take a day break.
Mm-hmm.
I was productive, I did a thing, all right, pencils down, I need a break, because my worst fear is burning out completely of YouTube.
Yeah.
I can't hate this. That's like my personal rule. I can't hate this.
Yeah. I agree, which is why I want to get to a point financially where I can just like consistently every video I can just have edited by somebody. Because that's how I think I'm going to be able to avoid that. But right now I can't, and certain people, I'm okay with editing certain videos. Like explained videos, I'm okay if they aren't those like these super highly edited things or whatever. That's cool. CBR list, I'm cool if they're not these super highly edited videos. But like the Bleach video I dropped, right? I wanted that to be super well put together, and the editor I sent it to did really well. But obviously, editing at that high up a level takes time, and
and money.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I'm still trying to find that happy medium right now, which I'm hoping in 2022, if I grow, like honestly, 2022 is going to be it's going to be a good opportunity to grow because of how many big anime are coming out, right?
Yeah.
Like,
God, dude,
yeah.
I know we focused on Bleach for this one, but we didn't even get into like the 1,000-Year Blood War arc trailer or anything along those lines. Just real quick, I don't know if that's going to be the final animation, but if it is, that looks crisp. I hope that they add some stuff to make the fights more fleshed out, because I know Kubo is really rushing it near the end. And hoping, praying, fingers crossed, that this is a no filler type situation because the manga's over.
Yeah, I definitely don't think there will be filler. Like the closest thing to filler I assume there will be was just like elongated fights. That's probably it.
There's no need to, you know. Well, okay, elongated fights might actually be a positive in this case.
I want that. I do want that actually.
Yeah.
For certain characters, for other characters, I think Kubo was able to flesh it out. For some, I think like personally, I want to see a lot of Ichigo versus Yuha. And I want to see more of that.
That final fight is going to be interesting. Oh, do you think that they're going to adapt the like the new arc as like the last episode? Because I'm curious if they'll go that far.
I doubt it personally. I wouldn't even want them to really, because it'd be weird. It's like they're I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that honestly.
Well, because the last 2 chapters are the epilogue anyway, so wouldn't really break the vibe.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just hoping, because I don't think that's how I mean, I'm not sure. Like the trailer is pre-animated, so it's meant to showcase like the style and the way they're gonna animate it. But based on how far they are, or how much they show, because they showed like Rukia and Renji after they came down from the Soul Palace, I can almost guarantee they aren't that far in actual production of the episodes. Because that's the same studio that has to animate Boruto. They're consistently having projects, things of that nature.
Are there any other series that you got like in hype for? Were there announcements or anything that like caught your attention?
Hell's Paradise. I don't know if you've read that, but it's a manga by Yuji Kaku, who's an assistant to Fujimoto, who wrote Chainsaw Man. It's got a pretty. I like it. It's also being animated by MAPPA, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yup.
It's a lucky guy.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think if they pace it properly and they give it good animation, Chainsaw Man, you got Hell's Paradise, there's a bunch of stuff. I'm honestly like super happy about like 2022 there might not be a season where I'm like out of anime to watch on a weekly basis. Mob Psycho season 3. I don't know if that's going to be 2022, but it's getting a new season, which is pretty dope. But
I mean, I was expecting a Black Clover movie announcement, but it didn't happen. So.
Pretty sure. I mean, I don't really care about a Black Clover movie, so I mean, I'm not tripping. But I do feel bad for my Black Clover fan homies. Oh, you like Black Clover?
I love Black Clover. You kidding
me? How did I not know this? Oh, maybe I shouldn't slander Black Clover around you. All right, let me keep that in mind.
It's like in my top 10.
Oh.
Yeah, man. I love Black Clover.
My condolences.
Well, it did beat out Fairy Tail. Because I think like the perfect fantasy series is somewhere in between Fairy Tail and like Berserk.
What do you mean by that? Like tone wise?
Yeah, tone wise, stakes wise, and world building wise.
I couldn't get too far into Fairy Tail myself personally. Like it was cool, but I just wasn't really that into it.
Oh, a couple random things. We'll call this like a lightning round. Have you seen the Witcher series on Netflix?
No. I haven't played the games either. But I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, so like I watched it over the weekend. That was like the other thing I did on my break. I didn't even tell you about that because like we just started this podcast. But yo, I had a great fucking weekend. Week, honestly. I like caught up on so much stuff because I decided to take like a week off after my Bleach video because that took me the better part of a month to like finalize because of just how bad the footage was. So I appreciate you saying it was concise earlier. I forgot to thank you for that because like that means so much to me considering whipping that thing into existence was a Herculean task. Anyway, so this week I decided I'm gonna just take some time off, recuperate, get back into the flow of making normal, not 3-hour videos that I have to condense down, And I decided to like catch up on a bunch of stuff. I've been on a One Punch Man like rewatch, read everything that I mentioned earlier, but I also decided to check out the Witcher series on Netflix. I watch everything on like 1.5x speed, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So I was having a blast. I really enjoyed it. If you do plan on, like, I definitely recommend it for you. I think you'd really, really love it as like a piece of media. The one thing I'd say to you going in is the first season is, it takes you, they don't acknowledge that it's flashbacks, but they're flashbacks. So there's no X years later or whatever. You kind of have to piece together the timeline yourself. But if you pay attention, it's not difficult. It's still like the events are still well written, and so the characters. It's just that timeline thing might be a little jumbled. The second season's fine though. But yeah, it was great, and I'm definitely excited for season 3. And the world building is actually pretty solid. I was kind of surprised by that. It's like you don't have to know about the games at all. Turns out that it's actually based from this like book written in the 80s by a Polish author.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, The Witcher is like its own like thing apparently. Last thing, I think this is gonna be the last thing. I don't know. I talk a lot. So I don't know if you check in on the comments of recent podcast episodes. But whenever I do, I like to go through with people who talk about how much they love the podcast, as narcissistic as that sounds. But my other favorite comments are from people like actually my favorite comments of people who comment on podcast episodes are people that comment on something from deep in the episode, because I know it means they watched that far. So I always love it, and I make it a point to respond to all those comments. And somebody actually responded to your Percy Jackson thing.
What did he say?
Yeah, he said he also agrees about like the revisiting Percy Jackson. He's definitely in the camp of, yeah, I think like you should revisit it, and it holds up.
Oh, that's dope. I'm glad to hear that then.
Yeah. Did you ever decide on that, by the way? I know you were on the fence on Twitter.
Yeah, I was on the fence. I haven't started it, but the books are definitely on standby, and I might just like break or whatever try to just reread the entire series, honestly.
Good stuff. Anyway, do you have anything you want to tell me or the audience, or anything you want to bring up? Even if you got like
outside of like, I feel like this was a pretty good episode overall. I feel like for Bleach fans, this is definitely gonna be either a treat or at least some entertainment. One of those, right? But the Bleach episode finally came, so that's pretty dope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check us out for next episode, where we get a little bit more personal about our YouTube struggles, the year in review, etc., etc. And yeah, check out both of our Bleach videos. Those are finally both up. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to hit, 1,000 subscribers to get the community tab. Yep. Thanks for listening. BR, do you have anything else to say?
Nah, hope you guys enjoyed, and hope to see you guys next week for another episode of the Honor Ones podcast.
All right, peace.